What if the economy you live in, the balance in your bank account, all of it, is built on a promise that has never once been verified? What if the world's biggest gold vault is actually empty? What if the money in your hand is just paper quietly burning away? While the masses chase profits, the most awake minds have quietly exited the room and are accumulating gold. Not to get rich, but to avoid being erased when the system collapses. This video is not for dreamers. It's for those who want to survive the coming domino crash of global finance. And it all begins with a truth hidden for 70 years, a gold vault no one is allowed to open. The century's deception, the empty vault named Fort Knox. We are living in a global economy built on a belief that has never been verified. There's a place, a symbol of value backing, that has been locked down for nearly a century. No one has seen it, no one has inspected it, not even once by an independent audit. And the real danger isn't whether there's gold or not, but that entire currencies, markets, and international credibility rest on a presumption no one dares to question. If that presumption collapses, the system, built on air, will crumble like dominoes from the shadows. If you think this is a trivial detail, imagine this. A public company claims to hold trillions in assets, but refuses to show them, denies audits, and bans third-party verification. Yet you keep investing because of trust. In finance, this is known as collective informational deafness, a form of global self-hypnosis. And the silence stretching from 1953 to today has turned this into a faith-based time bomb. The absence of noise is not proof of safety. It's the sound of denial echoing through a system built on fragile assumptions. If that vault is truly empty, the foundation of currencies, markets, and global finance would be obliterated. What's terrifying isn't the absence of gold, it's that the system assumes it's there. And once that assumption is shattered, gold is no longer just an investment. It becomes the last remaining lifeboat in a world sinking in default, distrust, and financial illusion. When belief collapses, reality doesn't need permission. It just comes crashing through the front door. And only those who saw it coming will have a way out. False trust, the fake gold story of our economy. There's a classic lesson in finance. Not everyone gets scammed, but many never bother verifying what they believe is true. A man finds gold, builds his life around it, borrows money, shows it off, lives like royalty, until he tries to sell and discovers it's lead-painted gold. No one tricked him, he fooled himself. And today, the global financial system is replaying that exact tale, just on a scale of trillions. The error isn't being duped, it's never questioning the true value of what you depend on. The entire monetary system runs on a thin layer of paint called faith. Governments print endlessly, central banks hoard reserves no one's allowed to see, and investors keep pouring capital into paper assets without asking, where is the real value? The mistake isn't in investing. It's in assuming ownership without verification. Blind trust in a decaying system is how millions are building their future on a foundation more fragile than glass. And when the illusion fades, it won't be just markets crashing. It'll be trust itself imploding in silence. The lesson here isn't to avoid risk. It's that if you don't verify it, you don't own it. When the global economy relies on assets that have never been independently confirmed, we're no different than the man who bet his life on fake gold. When the truth surfaces, it won't just be a shock, it'll be a mass financial exodus. Only those who questioned early will have anything left. And in the age of denial, verifying value is no longer due diligence. It's a survival instinct. Cracks in belief. The awake are quietly buying gold. Something strange is unfolding. There are no sirens, no front-page headlines, but the smart money is already moving. They're not ranting about inflation, not live-streaming their investment strategies, not chasing crypto or tech stocks. They're simply converting their wealth into gold. Silently. No announcements. No fanfare. Just cold, calculated repositioning. Because they don't wait for collapse. They evade it before it shows. Gold isn't a last-minute panic buy. It's a preemptive shield, deployed by those who understand that quiet action always beats public reaction. What's terrifying isn't that the majority are unaware, it's that they're deliberately distracted. News headlines still rave about market rallies and soft landings, but no one's talking about the tons of gold quietly changing hands. Gold doesn't need press coverage. It doesn't crave hype. While the crowd chases returns, the awake are building defense systems. And true defense is never loud. It's established in silence. Well before the first crack hits the headlines. By the time the crowd realizes what's happening, the doors will already be closed. If you're reading this and thinking it's still early, congratulations. You're not too late. Because when gold becomes the breaking news, when the media starts shouting, "Buy now before it's too late," it already is. Gold's value doesn't come from popularity, it comes from being ignored until it's essential. Those who act when no one's paying attention understand one thing. Preparation always outlives panic, and the smart don't chase gold. They accumulate it long before the herd even smells smoke. The absurdity of a legal con: we won't check that vault. Imagine a company claiming to hold trillions in assets, refusing audits, denying access to regulators, and yet still being trusted. That's not science fiction. It's precisely how Fort Knox operates. For over 70 years, the world's most secure gold vault has avoided independent verification. And what's more bizarre, the global financial world is okay with it. This isn't a lack of transparency. This is state-sanctioned opacity on a historic scale. Silence doesn't mean safety. It means no one wants to know the answer. The only public tour in 1974 let a few select reporters peek into a tiny portion. No weighing, no testing, no real confirmation. It was theater, not verification. A staged performance to preserve the illusion of stability. The question isn't, is the gold still there? It's why the secrecy if it is. If there's nothing to hide, why hasn't anyone opened those doors in 7 decades? In finance, silence is often the most dangerous way to lie, because it allows fantasy to become policy. The value of the dollar, bonds, and global confidence are resting on a pile of metal no one is allowed to touch. That's not strength, that's fear. If this illusion is shattered, it won't just trigger a market crash, it'll spark a collapse of every structure tied to fiat trust. The problem isn't gold. The problem is how many people are building their future on a vault no one dares to open. And once truth forces its way through those doors, there'll be no going back. Only fallout. Gold isn't for getting rich, it's for not being erased. While the masses obsess over quick profits, the wise focus on not being erased in the next collapse. Gold doesn't promise fast returns, doesn't offer dividends, and doesn't multiply overnight. But when everything else is falling apart, gold stands still. And that stillness is what gives it power. Gold doesn't help you win the financial game. It helps you survive when the game is flipped. In a world addicted to volatility, gold's quiet existence becomes its greatest strength. The unshakable anchor when every other asset screams. Truly wealthy individuals don't flaunt gold. They store it like a seatbelt, not a trophy. When markets crash, real estate tanks, and fiat currency erodes, gold remains neutral. It doesn't react emotionally, it doesn't default, it simply sits there, waiting. Those who understand this don't chase gold for performance. They use it to preserve the value of everything else. In financial storms, gold doesn't move with the tide. It anchors against it. And the people who win long-term are those who build insurance before the crash, not after. The question isn't, will gold make me rich? It's, what will I have left when everything else collapses? Those who dismiss gold have never truly faced a real financial disaster. But the powerful know better. They don't wait for the storm to hit. They build bunkers before the clouds arrive. And inside every bunker worth its weight, there's always gold. Not because it grows, but because it lasts. That's not speculation, that's survival engineering. And when survival is the goal, performance is irrelevant. Preservation is everything. History never lies. Every fiat currency has failed. There's one brutal law in financial history. No fiat currency has ever survived forever. From ancient empires to modern nations, every paper money system has eventually collapsed. Not because people stopped believing, but because their governments destroyed value through printing, overspending, and denial. The same pattern repeats across centuries. The difference now? It wears a suit, speaks with data, and sells the illusion of stability, while quietly marching toward the same end. The warning isn't hypothetical. It's historical repetition, wrapped in digital packaging. Today, national debt has exploded past $34 trillion. Inflation devours wages. Currencies are being bypassed in international trade. Central banks are selling US treasuries and hoarding gold, silently. These aren't minor events. These are fracture lines forming beneath the surface of global finance. When the very institutions that back fiat systems begin to shift toward metal, it's not noise. It's structural alarm. The shift isn't in headlines, it's in balance sheets. And those sheets now favor something that can't be printed. Gold. Gold isn't a trendy investment. It's what survives when trends die. When paper currencies collapse, gold becomes the last voice in the room. It doesn't need marketing. It doesn't campaign for trust. It just exists, immune to denial. And if you think this can't happen again, look around. It already is. The signs are visible. The exits are open, for now. But history teaches one harsh lesson. The majority always stays too long. And when they try to run, the doors are already closed. The powerful don't buy gold like the public. When average people think of buying gold, they imagine walking into a store, picking out coins, or worse, ordering flashy bars online. That's not strategy. That's retail therapy. The powerful operate differently. They buy physical gold, not for display, but for sovereignty and resilience. But they never store it at home or show it off. They place it in insured vaults in politically neutral countries like Switzerland or Singapore. Their gold isn't an ornament. It's part of a defensive architecture designed for system failure. They don't dump all their money in at once. They accumulate with discipline, monthly or quarterly through dollar cost averaging. They don't try to time the market. They don't obsess over price. They follow a strategic rhythm, 5 to 10% of their portfolio quietly parked in gold. They don't hope gold will rise. They expect everything else to fall. This is not emotion. This is execution. The difference isn't in how much money they have, it's how they think about risk. They don't react. They position. You don't need millions to act like those who have them. You just need the same blueprint. Choose the right asset, store it smart, allocate wisely, and stick to the plan. The biggest gap between those who survive a financial reset and those who vanish isn't income. It's mindset. While the crowd chases growth, the strategic prepare for collapse. And when everything else gets revalued or reset, gold is the one asset that doesn't beg for rescue. It simply sits, silent, incorruptible, and sovereign. When central banks move, it's not a signal, it's a warning. In finance, the truly powerful never say what they're doing, they just do it. And right now, central banks across the globe are quietly dumping dollars and loading gold. They're not announcing it. They're not holding press conferences. They're moving with surgical silence. This isn't some portfolio rebalance. It's a strategic evacuation. When the people printing money no longer trust the money they print, that's not a shift. That's a confession. One they'll never speak aloud, but one their actions scream. The very institutions built to defend fiat systems are now repositioning into gold. Why? Because they see what the public doesn't. The overprinting, the debt spiral, the collapsing faith. And they're not waiting for an official crisis. They're preparing ahead of the reckoning. This isn't some theory. It's happening now. These aren't traders chasing profits. These are architects of monetary systems repositioning before the reset. The question isn't, should I follow? It's, why haven't I started already? The moves by central banks won't be reported in bold headlines. But they're real. And if those who print currency are moving into gold, what does that tell you? Don't confuse silence with stability. In global finance, silence is often the loudest alarm. And when those who built the system start buying lifeboats, you better believe the ship is taking on water. This isn't just strategy, it's a final repositioning before the lights go out. Don't wait for the sirens, by then, the lifeboats are gone. Most people live reactively. They only act when the crisis is already here. When markets crash, banks freeze, or prices spike beyond control. But by that point, everyone's already rushing the exits. In finance, survivors aren't the fastest. They're the ones who planned before the panic. Gold isn't for those chasing headlines. It's for those who understand that the time to build defense is long before the first fire starts. You don't wait for the alarm. You prepare before the crowd even hears it. You don't need to time the top. You need to start before the stampede. Begin small. Buy monthly. Stay unemotional. Don't wait for governments to tell you to protect yourself. If there ever comes a day when they do, it means there's nothing left to protect. This isn't about price, it's about presence. Having gold before everyone else figures it out. And by the time the headlines catch up, the doors will already be locked. Gold doesn't panic. It waits. Will you? Wearing a seatbelt isn't about expecting a crash. It's about surviving the unexpected. Gold is your financial seatbelt. It won't make you rich overnight, but it can keep you alive when everything else drowns. The strange part? Most people know this, yet only a few act. The rest react in despair, and by the time they try, the safe havens will be full. Meanwhile, those who saw it coming will already be inside, doors shut, watching the storm from behind walls lined with gold. The shift is happening before your eyes, only the blind can't see it. We're in the middle of a silent financial migration. Wealth is flowing out of stocks, bonds, and paper, and into gold. Not because gold is more exciting, but because everything else is quietly dying. This isn't a trend reversal, it's survival instinct. And you don't need a PhD in economics to feel it, just open your eyes. The smart money isn't betting anymore. It's leaving, and it's not leaving loudly. It's slipping out through the back door, holding gold. The greatest danger today is the illusion of normalcy. Charts still rise, news still sells recovery, but underneath it all, assets are quietly rerouting, with no explanation. Those clinging to the old system, trusting in fading institutions, will soon realize they stayed too long. They'll reach for lifelines that no longer exist. And the ones who acted early? They'll already be gone, watching from safe ground, protected by the one asset that doesn't need a rescue plan. Gold. Gold isn't wealth. It's a map for those who know when to exit. Don't wait for permission. The signals are here. Currencies are devaluing. Debts are exploding. Institutions are hiding behind silence. And if you're still standing still, thinking things will work out, then you're not paying attention. The future belongs to those who prepare in silence, who hedge before collapse, and when the reckoning comes, they won't panic. They'll already be gone. We've just peeled back the curtain on a financial system built on blind trust, silenced by secrecy, and anchored by a vault no one has dared open. While the majority cling to paper assets and promises from shaky institutions, those who understand the rules of this game are already pulling back through gold. This is no less an investment choice. It is a survival mechanism. And you now face two options. Prepare early, or be swept away at the end. The game may not be over yet, but those truly awake have already left the table.